So, okay.
So I guess we'll start a little bit now, and then if everyone's ready to go. And hold on a second, I have two more people coming in.
Oh, good.
Just a second. Three. Okay. So thank you everyone for being here this morning. And here's another one, just a sec. We will get started, and I want to first thank everyone for their flexibility. As some of you know, we originally were going to meet back in September, and some scheduling things popped up. So thank you for jumping to this October date. And I will share with you that I learned since that time when we originally scheduled it that for the U of O's budgeting purposes, since we're part of that, their end of their fiscal year budgeting process, it makes more sense to do an October meeting. So August and September for we'll talk about this later, but I just wanted to flag that for future reference. But I first wanted to introduce Kristen Bell, who is—
Hey, Amy,
yeah.
Can we call the meeting to order first?
Oh, I'm calling the meeting to order.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, sorry to interrupt, but I just want to make
That's
sure we did
okay.
that.
That's totally okay. I wanted to first introduce Kristen Bell, who is our 15th commissioner. She is a professor at U of O. And Kristen, do you want to take a moment and just introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be a member of the commission and learn from you all. And I am assistant professor here at the University of Oregon. I've been here 6 years now, and I teach criminal law, appellate advocacy. I also teach a class in the prison. And I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Welcome. We're really happy to have you. Thank you for agreeing to work with us.
So that gets us up to our 15. And I also want to just let everyone know that Senator Przanski has been reappointed to the commission. So that's also great news. Thank you, Senator Przanski, for agreeing to continue this process and this program.
Thank you. Just a segue, I do have a meeting that's at 11:45, so I'll be needing to get off at 11:30, but thank you.
Thanks, Senator. And that's kind of where we started. I also wanted to take a moment and introduce Ann Kuntz, who you can see in your Jeopardy screens. Ann was our summer staff research assistant, office assistant, and she's a 1L at U of O. And she was fantastic. And she's here today to learn a little bit more about the commission on this side of the commission, rather doing research and the admin work that she helped me with this summer. So Valerie, I'm going to pass it over to you now.
Okay, and just for administrative purposes, I'll note that we do have a quorum for matters that we need to vote on. And Senator, we will do our best to keep this as short a meeting as possible. Okay, so over the last few years, the commission has used recordings in lieu of written minutes. And for a variety of reasons, mostly having to do with the fact that I'm old and also for accessibility purposes, I've asked Amy and our team to put together written minutes of the meetings so that we have those as a more physical record as well. And so those were, I asked Amy to circulate those to everybody prior to this meeting. And I hope that you've had a chance to review them. Does anybody have any changes to the minutes? Okay. So can we please have a motion to approve the minutes? Okay. Judge James, I think is moving. Okay. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Great. Any changes or any discussion about that? Great. All in favor of adopting the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Point of clarification.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
not sure if myself and other members of the legislature are voting or non-voting members for.
You are voting members of the commission.
I say aye.
Great, thank you. And we appreciate everyone's participation and vote on these all of these matters. Great. So I think that the next item on our agenda, the minutes having been adopted, is a discussion of the active projects, which are specifically the Municipal and Justice Courts project, which I understand has been making great progress. And then we'll talk about the LLC Act, but I'll turn it over first to Krista and Justice Duncan to discuss where we are with muni courts.
Thank you. I'm Krista Obold-Eshelman and co-chairing this with Justice Duncan. We have, well, Justice Duncan and I have been working on this project for several years now. Our group has been particularly active in the last year or so, and we are getting very close to a final product to present to you for this legislative session. This group has a limited scope. It's only working on the appellate process for courts, for justice courts and municipal courts that are not of record, which we refer to collectively as local courts in shorthand. And we are working on modernizing and making the statutory scheme more cohesive and user-friendly. We've had very strong participation particularly in the past year, many robust debates and collaboration over the details of the proposed bill. And I'd just like to say we've had some really exceptional volunteerism by members of this community. People have been writing multiple memos to help people understand the issues and multiple side conversations to try to hash things out, and just really that's the only reason we are where we're at now, is the many hours that a lot of people have been putting into this. The bill reorganizes and consolidates many provisions that were previously scattered. Although the justice courts provisions and the municipal court provisions generally will be in separate chapters, most of the provisions will be the same, except when it doesn't make sense for it to be that way. Appealing from courts not of record means that the case goes to the circuit court for a new hearing on the record. The draft bill clarifies the law around how to file and serve a notice of appeal from a local court to the circuit court, jurisdiction of the local courts and the circuit court, what's in the case record, scope of review, how the appeal process proceeds through judgment and subsequent proceedings. We're very near completion of everything that we need to do to have a cohesive bill. It looks like it's going to be, for those who are interested, around 50 pages long, including all the conforming amendments. The issue of one of the issues that's been particularly difficult to resolve and come to consensus on is the issue of default judgments and what to do with those. A Court of Appeals decision earlier this year determined that there was no appeal available from a default judgment itself, but noted that it was an open question whether there was an appeal available from the outcome of a motion to set aside a default judgment. Because of the changes that were being made broadly in the bill to the more vague set of statutes that currently govern, the work group had to make a policy choice on the issue of appealability of default judgments, as well as the standard and scope of review, in order to finish our draft bill. And despite competing wishes about how to go about this, after a lot of collaborative effort and compromise by many interested people over the past few months, by the time of our meeting this Wednesday, we were able to achieve almost full consensus of the group to go forward with the bill, with provisions allowing for appeal from motions to set aside default judgments, with a scope of review that includes only the decision on the set aside, and the normal standard of review, trying that decision anew, but with remand to the local court for full trial if the default judgment is set aside. Only one justice of the peace in the group will not support the bill moving forward if it has these provisions, but the Oregon Judges Association as a whole does not object. We are not going to be able to reach all of the potential law changes that people would like the group to reach and make decisions on, some because we lack time and some because they're outside of the scope of the work group. For instance, one thing that has been raised is the current limitation that a justice court may not become a court of record if it's within 50 miles of the circuit court. We've not put this on the work group agenda because it's outside of our current appellate scope. Another issue that's currently unresolved, that some would like to see resolved, is a statute accompanied by inconsistent case law that allows cities to prohibit defendants' appeals from offenses established by city charter or ordinance. So there may be a request coming that the commission address these and other issues in another session. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Well, and I just want to thank you and the Chief and Justice Duncan for all of your work on this, because unlike a lot of projects that we take on, you didn't have a uniform act to work with. So this is really creating the infrastructure that we need in this area. So my hat is off to both of you and the work group. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. Senator Przanski.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to bring to attention now that someone has brought up in the presentation regarding the prohibition of a court of record for a justice court within 50 miles of the county seat. I've been approached by one of the justices asking if I would be willing to have a bill drafted that would in fact allow that to occur. So that will be in the hopper. It's not that it's going to go anywhere, but it is going to be a point of discussion because I feel that that's something that we should discuss. My personal belief is that if we can have the local courts become courts of record, it's a positive for the process in the sense of efficiency of hearing the matters and not having to basically go to square one in a de novo hearing at the circuit court after you've had a result reached at the local court. So that's just want to give the heads up for the commission.
Great. Thank you very much for that update. And one of the things that I did want to flag as well is that, you know, we're doing these updates now on both of the active proposals. And so we'll be voting to move these forward at the December meeting. And you should have the text of the bill and the reports at that time, or before then to review, so you can vote on it at that time. Yes, Dean Dobbins.
Yeah, and this may be a question for Amy or Krista. Is there a place where materials that the work group is currently working on is posted, either on the website or otherwise, or are you guys just doing that internally?
So the website has all of the recordings that from the meetings over the last however many years has been going on. And that was one of my big projects this summer and I'll be talking about in a bit, but is getting that updated. So the recordings for all of those are posted.
Okay.
Was there something specific that you're looking for, Dean?
It's just an area that I'm interested in. So I'd be curious about, going back and taking a look at stuff, but it doesn't mean that
Totally.
I need to mess anything up. So I was just curious about whether that material was posted out there. And I wasn't sure, and maybe it's a larger scale question about sort of the availability of work group materials on the website, generally speaking, because I know it was something that, at least when we had the capacity to do it, we tried to do, but
well, and we'll talk more about the website later, but I'll just sort of foreshadow that by saying that Amy and Anne and the team really did a Herculean effort to try and, take a lot of records that were in boxes in a closet at U of O and get them up on the website. So I think the work is ongoing, but large strides have been made.
Great.
Okay, I think I'm next to talk about the LLC Act, and this is a model act, and so we had a little bit more infrastructure going into this than the municipal courts project or local courts project did, but it's still been going on for quite a while. We have a bill drafted, and I want to thank Dexter at Legislative Council for really making this possible. We, as you know, we approved this and put it up the last long session and didn't get too much traction for lots of reasons. And but we've had great discussions in the interim with folks who had concerns that they expressed or amendments that they wanted to introduce to the bill as it was. So just to sort of walk through those, and we'll include a cheat sheet when we send the materials out for the December meeting. But when we submitted this bill in the past, DOJ had some edits and we had some discussions with Charitable Activities Division even before submitting it. And then OTLA had raised some concerns that we've addressed. So we incorporated DOJ's amendment. We incorporated the OTLA changes that they wanted. Department of Revenue had some changes that we just discussed, last week or the week before with their folks. That's really designed to take language that refers to specific programs and make it more broadly applicable, just for ease of administration. So I think that'll be a good edit. And we're going through in the process, and Amy gets a lot of credit because we have a draft of the report already done. So we're working through the draft right now. And as I've been going through it, I've been really impressed with all of the work, not only that the work group did, but that Dexter Legislative Council did, and that Amy and her team have done, Amy and Ann and our new extern have done to prepare the report to make this easily digestible. Because I think the bill is how long? It's like
260.
Yeah, 260 pages plus the conforming amendments bill, which is an accompaniment bill. So it's a beast of a bill. But it's basically it's everything to do with LLCs. So it's going to be a replacement of that chapter in the ORSs. So the first draft of the report that's going to take this very large bill and make it understandable by not only legislative staff and our elected representatives, but also folks who are coming through later and doing legislative history on this. We will help them understand what's going on in the bill and how we track and how Oregon is coming into better conformity with where the Model Act is right now. So I think this is a modernization proposal. I think it's going to make things easier for Oregon businesses, both large and small. And I'm really excited that, we have the opportunity to move this forward in the next session. So, so our hope is to get both of these pre-session filed so that we can, have the discussions that we need to have with the team. And I'm really glad that Ami is here because she was amazing in helping us with the last effort. So thank you, Ami, for that. And we'll keep moving this forward. So if you have any questions when you are looking at the materials that we send out for the December meeting, please do let us know. I'm happy to answer any questions. And we're looking at quite an effort to educate the business community, the bar, the CPAs about how this advances Oregon business. Yes, Kate.
Hi, it's Kate Toswell. I was just going to let everyone know I'm here in lieu of Dexter. He's actually out of town right now and asked me to attend in his stead. So if there are any questions around process, I don't necessarily know the ins and outs of the draft, but I can certainly bring any further suggestions back to him. I know there were changes that were made in September, I think, in response to previous requests. So it sounds like that's in pretty good shape. If there's anything else that needs to go into this, I can relay that back to him. And then also if there are any questions around deadlines or about our office process, I'm available to respond to those. And thank you.
Great. Kate, thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, I really value our partnership with Legislative Council in all of this. You guys have been fantastic to work with. So thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, Justice Walters.
Thank you. My question is from the uniform laws side. Who's working on it from the uniform laws side, and are we still substantially similar to the Uniform Act?
Yeah, so we don't have, our modus operandi when we went into working on this work group was that if there was something that Oregon legislators had made a policy decision about, which is, were particularly true with respect to the transparency and reporting ownership interest. We had that whole episode with the trailer out in Vernonia having 1,000 entities registered to it, that we would respect that. And we wanted to incorporate those into this bill. But wherever possible, we wanted to adopt the language and the organization of the Uniform Act so that we would be substantially compliant with the Uniform Act. I mean, I think the bill, as I've been reviewing it, is even more in conformance with that model act than, for example, Washington's Act, which is technically listed as a conforming act. So while we don't have a representative of the Uniform Laws Commission on the work group, we received presentations from the Uniform Law Commission as we started it, and we've been keeping the idea of conformity with the Model Act front and center.
Okay, well, I think it would be a good idea to have somebody at the Uniform Law Commission take a look at where we are, and just in case there's something to point out from the experience of other
Sure.
states. So if you could let me know who you get to do that. They have staff people assigned to each of the acts,
Right.
and the reporter could take a look at it too. It just seems like a good idea to at least
Yeah,
coordinate.
absolutely. Yeah, and we were working with Commissioner Shetterly, who submitted comments on behalf of the Uniform Laws Commission last session, or last time we brought this forward. So I'll let
Right.
me reach out to you about if there's additional steps that we can take.
Okay, or make sure that Lane has looked at it, or he's got the right
Yeah.
people looking at it. I just want to be able to check that box off that people
Sure.
from the commission have taken a look.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and from my perspective, the more bridges that we can build between this group and the Uniform Laws Commission itself, the better, because there's some really exciting proposals coming down the pipe from the Uniform Laws Commission that, may make sense for us to take a look at for Oregon purposes.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, so the next step is to finish our review of the draft, finish our review of the report, and then submit this and the local courts proposal. That's a lot easier to say, so thank you, Krista. For the December meeting for this group to approve, so we can get everything filed, for the legislature to consider for the long 2025 session. Am I forgetting anything, Amy?
On LLC, I don't think so.
There's a lot there, so watch this space, but we'll have a more involved discussion at the next meeting, but we just wanted to give everybody an update on the status of both of those bills. So I will turn it over to Amy to discuss operations.
So there are two things today to talk about here. There are two general things. The first is materials on the website. When I talked to you all in June, we talked about the fact that the website hadn't been updated in a while. And there were broken links or missing links. And we wanted to clean that up. So over the summers, Anne, who I introduced earlier, was hugely helpful. And we have, I think the electronic reports updated. As well as adding additional materials that in the projects link, so there's more information on the previous projects. And we've been working towards putting materials, the recordings up, because it appeared that there were some recordings that had not been posted to the of previous meetings that had not been posted to the website. So that's a continuing process. So that's the first thing. And it's an ongoing process. We still, like Dean Dobbins mentioned, there's more that we can put up there and the more that we can do. And I think we're going to continue to work on that and focus on that. The second part of the project was the hard copy materials at U of O. Turns out we had close to 200 binders tucked away in closets and offices. This summer, Debbie Thurman, who was a longtime staffer for the commission, went through all of those and cataloged them, finished up about a week and a half ago. And so we now have a catalog of what's in there. And that was our next step. So that catalog is going to be published, I think, on the website as well, so that if people have information that they want to know, like if they can't find something electronically, that we know that we have something electronic, hard copy. And I'll be sharing that with the U of O library system as well, so that, because apparently folks are calling the U of O Law School library asking for materials, and they say, we're not sure what we have. So hopefully this will get more information out there.
One thing to flag on that too is that we've had some discussions about where the most appropriate repository for Law Commission records is. And my personal belief is that it's probably the State Archives Office. But I think watch this space on that as well, because we want to create an opportunity for everybody to be able to access them. And so I think that's going to be one of the projects for 2025 is figuring out what the best place for the physical repository of those records is.
And then I also wanted to give a quick update on students and staff. As you know, Anne's here. As I mentioned, she was our first summer staffer in a couple years. So thank you again to Anne for all the work she did. In addition, and so she was, Anne's a 1L, so she just started at U of O in law school this August. Good luck to her. We also partnered with the University of Oregon Law School's Portland program and have restarted a fellowship program that we, historically, we've had student fellows, and I believe Dean Dobbins can probably, there were a number of student fellows and externs and interns when program was at Willamette. The gentleman's name that we're working with this year is Tommy Grossman. He's a 3L in the Portland program. He's also externing in somebody's in a magistrate court, and I'm so sorry, I can't remember the name of the judge. So he's not here today, but he's been great, and he's been working on the LLC Act with me and helping to draft the report. And then I also wanted to give you a quick update that Debbie Thurman, who has been with the commission for quite some time and with the University of Oregon for even longer, I think that's maybe 43 years. She stayed with us for the first 6 months, and it was awesome to have her here. She was a wealth of institutional knowledge, and she has retired, so she is no longer with us, or no longer with the commission, excuse me. She was super helpful at kind of getting through the institution, providing institutional knowledge and working with that binder project and getting our materials organized. So I really appreciate her work, and she is now traveling with her family, which is great. So those are the kind of operations updates that we have right now. And then Valerie, do you want to go start on the budget stuff? Oh, Dean Dobbins.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize, Amy, that, if you guys need anything electronic, especially from, the Willamette days, feel free to reach out. I mean, unfortunately that the internet, the Wayback Machine has been down for a few months where I think a lot of that stuff is at, but it's there. And I have I've got emails, so probably way too many.
And I did want to flag that, and thank you for referencing this, Dean Dobbins. One of the things we're probably going to do, or maybe talk about, is hiring another student. And I wanted to flag that there's some interest in seeing if we can, posting that job is available for both U of O students and Willamette students and Lewis and Clark students. So that might be a way to, if there are materials there, that might be a good bridge. So Valerie, you want to talk about budget first, or you're muted?
Would it be a Zoom meeting if I tried to talk and was, not muted all the time? Okay, so let's see. So we're going to talk about budget, and then we'll see where we are. We may switch the programs committee stuff with the work plan, just if John shows up and is able to join us. So I just wanted to thank Amy and thank the U of O for pulling together the year-end financials for the commission. We are, for the most part, on target, which I think is great for where we plan to be at this point. Because of the way that the university calendar works, the university's budgeting U of O's budgeting calendar has the previous year's fiscal budget finalized in mid-September. And so when we talk about future meetings at the end of this meeting, we're going to have some thoughts about how to organize that so that we don't waste anybody's time with budget information where we don't have meetings where we don't have budget information, because it's important to go over that. And then also for fiscal year 2024, budgeting was on track with the exception of the U of O cost center, and that changed. Amy and I were discussing that the number changed from $8,000 to $14,000. And that's the money that we pay the University of Oregon for administrative support. Did we ever track down why that was?
It's based on the number of employees, and also my understanding was that there was some journaling that had to do, and I have to be honest, my accounting background is not strong enough to go into detail on this, but there was some journaling that needed to be done on the back end accounting side based on the state funding that comes in and setting that up. So
Okay.
I think that was that. And I don't think there's going to be, my understanding is there won't be this jump in future years. This was a one-time thing.
Sort of a getting back up and moving expense. Okay. Also Anne wasn't able to start until July 1st, so payroll is included in fiscal year 2025. And then we're also including our Portland program fellow who Amy just mentioned, Tommy, in that for fiscal 2025, although our cost on that is pretty minimal. I think we're paying $1,500 of his expense, his stipend.
We're doing 1,000 and
Oh,
the
right.
Portland program's doing 1,500. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I think that we're sharing that with the university, and a second fellow, which we've talked about doing, would be, $2,500 for us to pay. But I think there's value there, particularly during the legislative session. Oh, and there's John. Particularly during the legislative session. So, we talked about, so let's talk briefly about the POP. So I wanted to thank everybody who responded to the outreach this summer concerning submitting an increase with the increase in funds for the legislature, because we're in the OJD budget documents with that request that we approved for an additional $50,000 for the next biennium ending in 2027. And so one of the things, and also with the budget folks at OJD recommended that we pull together a 10% reduction document as well. One of the things that I did ask one of my law clerks to look into is whether we needed to ratify that decision at this meeting, that we approved it as a matter of public records, and we do. So I just want to have, can I have a motion to ratify our decision to move forward with the POP, which, Amy, remind me what POP, the acronym, stands for?
Policy option package.
I can never remember that. So yeah, so that's that $50,000. So could I please have a motion to ratify our decision to move forward with that POP?
So moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, Judge James. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Motion passes. And then Amy, do you want to present the proposed budget?
Valerie,
Yes.
can you reflect that I abstain in my role? I'm
Oh,
very
yes,
involved
thank
in
you.
OJD
Yeah.
budgeting and don't feel like it's right for me to participate.
Sure. No, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Chief Judge Legason. Okay, so Amy, do you want to talk about the budget quickly?
Yes. Sorry, going back and forth. Sorry, just looking at this. As you might remember, we talked about the budget during the June meeting and the carry forward dollars that we have. And we bumped or delayed a final decision on the budget as a whole with a approval to kind of hire the summer staff and doing the fellows program, and also with the direction to look further into this idea of a limited duration postgraduate legal fellow. So if you the proposal is pretty much the same as what we had last time, with the addition of this job description for this postgraduate legal fellow to kind of flesh out what we would be doing, what this person would be doing, and kind of how the role would work. And I will flag one of the things that we did, even though you all approved last June, hey, hire these students, I did take it a little bit slow. I only hired one for the summer and one fellow for the fall, because it is a ramp up process and there is a lot to learn about how the University of Oregon does its HR processes, and also how we can integrate students and fellows into the Law Commission and how that will work. Because I know that historically, there have been a number of students and fellows at Willamette, and pre-COVID, there were a few at U of O, but it's been a few years. So we wanted to make sure we understood the processes and what needed to be done and what would support them and what would both support the commission and support the students in their educational experience. So we also have now about 6 months of experience on having one student at a time and me on working on 2 proposals, 2 work groups and the commission. And it looks like, and we're going to talk about this further, but we are potentially looking at 2 proposals for work groups for starting next year. As Krista mentioned, there is the Muni and Justice Court that potentially might be coming forward, and we still have the Corporations Act, which is still out there. And there seems to be some interest. So
there's also interest in 2 estate planning work groups. So, you know, so we've got a lot on the plate coming up.
Yeah. I would say that in terms of kind of the idea of a staff attorney or a postgraduate legal fellow, the proposal was a similar proposal was put forward in I think the 2017-2019 biennium. And what happened at that point was, for those of you in the legislature, Josh Nasby was tasked to the commission to work on the workplace harassment project, but they didn't actually get current service level funding or a POP through that time. So this would be a 1-year pilot project to see if it works, try and create something. And we would be using the carry forward funds in part to kind of get the commission up more than just me and Anne, who was wonderful, and Tommy, who's wonderful, to see if we can do some of those more the bigger projects, and we can make sure that we're meeting both the administrative and operational side of the responsibilities of the commission and supporting the work groups as they're needed. And different work groups have different levels of staffing needs. I would probably point to the Muni and Justice Court's proposal and work group as one that, because there is not a uniform law commission model act to rely on, that the amount of work that Krista and Justice Duncan have put in is Herculean, I think would be a understatement. And I think that having another staff member, if possible, would smooth the way for some of those really big complex projects.
Yeah, we're looking at potentially 4 projects coming up after, you know, starting in the new year. So I think we've been stretched pretty thin with just Amy and a couple of students on a part-time basis. So I think the staff attorney position has solidified in my mind from our last discussion as something that we really do need to continue to move the work of the commission forward. And the thought is that it will be a recent law grad. So, you know, we can get that going and posted, but we wanted to bring this back in case there were additional discussion that we wanted to have on this point before we approve the budget. Anybody have any thoughts that they want to share on this? Okay, so not hearing any additional thoughts, I'd like to move that we approve the 2025 budget that Amy circulated as the budget for the commission to move forward. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, great. Motion passes. Good. So I would like us to move to the programs committee discussion. before we talk about the work plan, because I think John had something that he wanted to discuss with respect to the programs committee. I want to make sure we give it fair time to have that discussion. Before we get to that discussion, though, I do want to give an update on where we are with the panels that we approved. So back in June, we discussed and approved the creation of 2 subject matter expert panels, one in the estate planning area and one in the criminal law area. We pulled together the subject matter panel on the estate planning side of about 20 practitioners. They're very excited to get started on this, and I think we've got some really great folks involved. Particularly since we have 2 proposals that we're reapproving or looking at reapproving for starting next year in the estate planning area, specifically the e-wills work group and the Partition of Heirs Property Act work group. I'm really glad that we were able to do that. We decided, given that some of the challenges that and some of the discussions that have been happening around Oregon's public safety system, we didn't reach out to the criminal law practitioners at this time because I think we're likely to, they have other issues that they're talking about right now. And we don't want to detract from those conversations. And so once that's sorted out, I think we'd like to revisit that, because some of the proposals that we have been hearing about informally where people want to move forward are in the criminal area. But I don't think people have bandwidth at this time to move forward with those proposals. So on the e-wills Act, if it does move forward, Commissioner Shetterly has agreed to chair that work group, and Eric Foster, an estate planning attorney down in Medford, has agreed to be the reporter. Eric's great, and as is Commissioner Shetterly. And then with the Partition of Heirs Property Act, Commissioner PK Runkles-Pearson has agreed to chair, and former Commissioner Susan Gary has agreed to be the reporter for that work group. So we've got those signed up. We're going to ask the panel is currently considering the proposals, and we should have that update by the time that we get the programs committee together. So John, do you want to share your thoughts about the programs committee? We've had some discussions about that, and I know you wanted to raise a proposal.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Sorry I was a little late. I'm traveling. I'm down to San Francisco today, and my agenda was too ambitious, and I didn't account very well for travel from point A to point B. So sorry about that. Valerie and I had a long discussion about the programs committee and how it fits into the work of the commission. And it seems to me that the program committee in the past has paid special attention to needs that have been brought to us by the bar in general. And, my thinking is some of our greatest successes, though, have been tackling projects that have either been assigned to us by the legislature itself or have originated from legislative sources. And I think it's important for us to further involve members of the legislature in the work we do for a whole number of reasons. Mostly to keep our work as nonpartisan as possible. And I'm sure that the legislators on this call and Senator Prozansky could probably back me up on this, that there are lots of issues that are not partisan really off the bat, but somehow during the course of deliberations, they become that way. And they shouldn't. And the majority of what the legislature does, even today, is nonpartisan. They, by and large, work together. And so I would like to suggest that we do a couple things. Number one, we expand the makeup of the committee to include those legislators who are on the commission who would like to participate. And then also to maybe broaden our reach a little bit and extend into the members of the House and Senate and see who else might like to join. Because my thinking is that if legislators ask us to tackle a project and give us some initial direction on where we should be going, the chances that our ultimate work product will pass in the legislature is greatly enhanced because there's a significant amount of buy-in right from the very beginning. The other thing I'd like to do is suggest that our programs committee and the commission itself, maybe during the opening days of the next regular session, sponsor a cocktail hour, maybe at our facility at Willamette that we used to occupy, and invite the members to have a cocktail party and learn about the commission and what it does, and discover opportunities to maybe be involved. I think that kind of outreach coupled with restructuring our program committee would really serve us well in the future and would certainly increase our awareness there. That's really it.
Great, thank you, John. So my thought is that any of the commissioners who would like to serve on the programs committee are absolutely welcome to do so. You know, I want to make sure that if folks are interested in doing the work of helping us evaluate those proposals, that we give them the opportunity to do so. My personal feeling on this is that I don't think it makes sense for us to involve additional folks at this time on the programs committee. I want to make sure that we try and keep things as politically neutral as possible and really focus on law improvement, which is why I think the focus on you know, having these panels and having subject matter experts weigh in on panels will help us make a better, more informed decision about that. You know, and I worry that bringing more politicians and more elected representatives onto that group can introduce an element of politics that isn't there currently. So, you know, but I did want to give John the space to talk about this because that is just my perspective on this. And so I wanted to see if how other folks felt about this, or you have thoughts about what the programs committee, which really their role is to review proposals and work with folks who are proposing things to get and work with Amy so that when we get proposals on projects, there's been a lot of legwork done. So we as a full commission can make a decision, an informed decision about what proposals to move forward. And, you know, I think one of the things that Amy and I have talked about is, you know, getting some better guidelines around what a proposal should look like when we get it. Because I think there's a lot of, oh, well, the commission should do X, Y, and Z without, you know, sometimes the bar proposals have not come in a particularly structured manner about what that looks like. So, I mean, that's my thoughts on that. And so I just wanted to create space for discussion. Does anybody have any thoughts that they'd like to share about this?
Well, if I could just make a very quick rebuttal and then
Sure.
and then open it up for discussion. My thinking is that the best way to keep issues from the quagmire of partisanship is to involve different points of view in the legislature up front at the very beginning and secure some semblance of buy-in. It's been my experience that when you get legislators from opposite sides of the aisle, the big trick is getting them all to work together at the beginning. And if people are all working together at the beginning, the likelihood of a product that everyone can support is greatly enhanced. And the chances of its passage is greatly enhanced. I think, you know, the Measure 110 stuff is a good example of that. There were people who had diametrically different points of view. There was a certain amount of partisanship involved, but at the end of the day, the product that the legislature ended up with was an excellent compromise, and I think will serve the state well. And so anyway, that's just my point of view. I'd like to involve members of the legislature earlier in our processes rather than later trying to sell them something.
Right. I mean, I think from my perspective, I'd love to have legislative staff serve on work groups. I mean, I think that's where we sort out a lot of these issues is, the nuts and bolts of the actual work. Yes, Dean Dobbins. And then, Representative Wallen.
Yeah. Sorry, can you just remind me currently who's serving on the program committee? Is it just currently?
Well, currently it's me and John and anybody else who wants to serve, because you're all going to get a meeting announcement. And so that's why it makes sense for us to have a discussion about whether we want to create some more formal guardrails around what that looks like.
I have Dobbins on this list.
I mean, I guess what I would say just quickly is that it seems to me that I understand John's point in the sense that it seems like the program committee, one of the things you're always trying to pay attention to, or at least as best I recall, right, is thinking about sort of, is this something where right now that it's going to be very hard to move it through the legislature because of political concerns and political tensions.
Yep.
That said, it also seems to me that it makes a lot of sense to have a point at which you are double checking on that. I don't know that necessarily means having outside legislators, members of the program committee, as opposed to there being a moment at which the program committee or somebody else needs to be double checking with particular designated legislators. That's just
and no proposal is going to move forward without the commission voting on it, right? And that's why we try and have folks who are elected representatives from both sides of the aisle serve on this commission. Representative Wallen.
Thank you. I'm agnostic about how we do it, but I agree with concept that involving the legislature doesn't know we exist.
Yeah.
I didn't know we existed until I was appointed. So there's not a built-in level of credibility just because something comes from the Laws Commission. And so the proposal of a reception is a good idea. Even if the legislators themselves don't come, if staff comes and staff can go explain, I mean, there should be some kind of a presentation short at the beginning just to clarify what we are. I'm again agnostic about that as well, but the amount of work that's going into these law change proposals is just foreign concepts, and they should go through in a bipartisan, unanimous almost way. But I can tell you that the strangest things will hang up the political process. And you can work really hard to get the policy exactly perfect, but you have to find a political path for that bill. And so I don't know what the mechanism is, but there's wisdom in the idea that we should be involving, or at least have an eye on the political aspect of it, because that's
absolutely critical. Yeah, I agree with that. Senator Brzezinski.
Thank you. So yeah, I would follow up and just say, I think some type of reception would be appropriate to allow new members to kind of be exposed to this. What we traditionally have done, though, is at least on the Senate side, since I've been chairing, having the Law Commission come before the committee and actually do a open show and tell presentation as to who they are and what they are made up of. And it is actually a creature of the legislature. The legislature before my time realized the wisdom of having certified smart people, as President Courtney would say, being able to come forward and volunteer their time on some very detailed issues that take sometimes years to actually be fleshed out. I think that in the last few years, or sessions, I should say, we probably have not done due diligence in keeping the spotlight on the commission as an entity of the legislature.
Yeah.
So I think this would be a way through the a reception. I'm not real comfortable at this point having it open up to just anybody that's a member of the legislature to be on the program committee or such, because I could see where that could cause a lot of confusion and could potentially jeopardize independence of the commission from the legislature. And to me, I'm going to say independence again, because that has been one of the beauties, I believe, of the commission, is that the issues, the discussions, everything is happening, quote unquote, outside of the building. and it's actually with people that are having more judicial tolerance and prudence in how they look at these issues. And so that would be kind of my snapshot response at this point. But I do think that we can make the Legislative Assembly a little bit more aware of the commission. But the last thing I would want us to see is having 90 different members going to the commission and saying, hey, I want you to work on this.
Right.
Hey, this is something important. Those are the type of things that could, in fact, jeopardize the integrity that I believe the commission brings to the discussions when we have bills going forward that have been vetted through the commission. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And I also love the idea of having a reception. We've been talking about having a reception plus a continuing education event for staff who do have CLE requirements at the legislature. And Dexter, I believe, had offered to help with that. Amy, do you want to say a brief thing about that?
So I don't think we've talked to Dexter about it, so I don't want to.
Okay, Kate, don't tell him.
But the idea was raised to have, I promise, Kate, I'm not like promising you guys to anything yet. But the idea was to have a CLE and a reception during the first couple, maybe the first month of session, when people are there, but there are no deadlines. And do a CLE for both legislators and staff and Marion County attorneys who want to come with a more of a legislative focus and doing that. I know that the bar historically did CLEs in the Capitol pre-COVID, and that was in conjunction with the Judiciary Committee. Susan, I don't know if you guys are doing that anymore or planning on starting that back up again, but that's also something to think about.
Dean Dobbins.
Yeah, I just say on the reception front, as I recall back in the day, what we would usually try and do is key the reception to the release of the biennial report. And so usually kind of at the beginning of the long session in January, we sort of summarize the last couple of years and here's the report, and that's sort of a good documentation to present to people.
That is such a great segue for what I wanted to say next, which is that Amy has been working on the biennial report, which we're hoping to have copies of at the reception and present at the reception, but also to take to both the House and Senate committees when we do that introductory presentation that the senator was talking about, because I think that it's really important that people know here are the things that the commission does, here what they've been doing. And yes, thank you so much, Senator, for attending. I really appreciate your thoughts on this. And so the idea is that we'll have that report as a leave behind for legislators and the public to have a much better perspective. I don't think we did that during COVID just because COVID, but it's a great opportunity to educate the public about what we're doing. Okay, any other thoughts on programs committee or the reception? All right, let's go backwards in the agenda to the work plan. Amy, do you want to talk briefly about that, and then we can talk about future meetings?
Sure. So as you all know, one of the things I'm trying to do is do a quarterly work plan for the commission to kind of figure out how things work, timing, proposals, give myself some benchmarks to work towards. And because I'm new to the position and this is something we haven't done before, I'm doing them in quarter bites and rewriting them. And I think that once we get a year under our hats, or my hat, we'll have a better idea of how this works and whether the proposed timelines make sense. So just to give you a quick review of some of the big things that we had for the first quarter, drafting the reports for the LLC and the municipal and justice courts reports. So that is started and in process. The LLC report has a first draft done, and the Muni and Justice Courts I've started it. I don't have a first draft, but it's begun. Another one was to update the OLC website and focus on outreach to stakeholders. I've continued to do that kind of outreach to folks, both current and former legislators, or commissioners, excuse me, and stakeholders who have been interested in the program and the commission and have worked with us in the past. And as you know, the reports have been updated and materials have been added to the website. And then well, the governance side was to hire staff. So we had Ann this summer, who was fantastic. We have Tommy now. We've got the Portland program. The fellowship started back up again. So I'm very excited about that. So for the fall, we have a few things, just kind of a high level. So law improvement for the fall is to complete the reports and submit to you all for consideration. And then continued outreach on the 2 estate planning proposals. Program policy goal is for our first program committee meeting to hold that this fall. And the governance goal is for continuing student fellow engagement and the postgraduate legal fellow projects that you guys just approved. If that was part of my work plan, if you guys approved it. So that is where, and continue to monitor the budget and figure out the budgeting process. So that's kind of where we are.
And I will say too that Amy has been doing a really good job in outreach to legislative staff. And one of the wins that is not reflected in this, I think, is there were some discussions about a proposal that one of the legislators had that the commission actually had looked at a number of years ago. And so Amy was able to supply that representative with the work that the commission had done on that project already. And so I think, you know, the intangible benefit of having Amy doing that outreach is that, you know, again, it builds the reputation of the commission in the eyes of the elected representatives and their staff, but also allows us to tie together the work the commission has done in the past with the questions that people have today. So, you know, the work plan really focuses on these 3 areas where I asked Amy to put together, okay, here's some actual targets, but there's a lot of intangible stuff that's being done in the background in addition to those targets. Any questions for Amy about the work plan? Okay, so may I have a motion to approve the work plan?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Great, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, work plan passes. Thank you all. Okay, shall we talk about future meetings? And actually, this is a more interesting discussion than it looked like from the agenda. So go ahead, Amy, take it away.
Okay, so there's kind of 2 parts to this discussion. The first one is the dates for the December meeting. And I will be sending an email after this meeting today to finalize it, but I wanted to give you a heads up that we're looking at December 4th, December 5th, or December 6th at 10 a.m. And those are the 3 dates we're looking. That way we'll be able to talk about the proposals and get them for pre-session filing through the committees. So that's the first part. The second part.
Could you say those dates again really quick?
Oh, of course I can. December 4th, which is a Wednesday, December 5th, Thursday, and December 6th, Friday at 10 a.m. on one of those days.
We have ledge days, the 10th, 11th, and 12th. So chances that I would want to drive to Portland on the 6th and then turn around and drive to Salem on the 10th are almost 0. Just so you know.
Okay, and yeah, that brings up a really good point. I do want to pass on a thanks generally for the discussion around remote versus in-person. My understanding is that and Valerie, please correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is this December meeting would be remote, and that there was a conversation previous to me joining the commission that the best in-person meeting time would be this fall meeting, because we're spread out all over the state and there's a legislative session, so that it makes probably the most sense to do this December meeting remotely. And then we will probably, the goal would be to have an in-person meeting in 2025 post-session, which does anyone have any questions about that? Is that good? Okay,
Helpful, thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm okay with that, but I'm in court on the 4th and 5th, so I've got the 6th available. How about Monday, the 9th, right before Ledge Days?
I'm traveling, but
Well, we'll send out a doodle poll and then
Yeah,
we'll
why don't you
see.
do that?
Yeah, we'll see
Yeah,
who can
we
hit the
don't-
most dates.
Yeah.
Yes, Kate.
I was just gonna say if staff from Legislative Council is needed for this meeting, our deadline to deliver all of the pre-session requests that we received by September 27th is December 4th. So at by 5 p.m. we have to deliver all of those drafts.
Oh, so the
And
4th
whether
is out.
They're still working on them or whether they're actually pretty much done, I don't know. But and also depending who would be required or asked to attend, the 4th might be difficult or maybe not. But that's
So
our
we
deadline.
don't want to add to your stress level at any degree. So thank you for that information, Kate and John. So we'll send out a doodle poll, but like, and so mark which days you can do, and then we'll try and figure that out. Amy, do you want to talk about the bigger picture stuff though, which I think is more interesting?
Yes, so that I understand has been a little bit complicated prior to my time here at the commission, and then of course with the scheduling for September, is that the commission meetings have not been on a regular schedule. They've been coming up as they need to come up, and I understand there were not as many meetings in the last couple of years. I think the statute says that we should aim for 4-year. And one of the things we were thinking about is because we're on this 2-year cycle for legislation, that we should be responsive to that, but also it might help for commissioners to have, let's say we do a specific Friday every quarter, that sort of thing. And so what I have proposed, or what I'd like to propose, is for 2025, doing a meeting in January, April, August, and November. And then pick a day, like the third Friday of the month or the second Friday of the month, something like that. So that I can put it on your calendar now. You can schedule your entire lives around it, of course. And it will be there, it will be on the website, it will be, and you will have it on your calendar. So, and then in 26, which I realize is a long way away, the schedule will be slightly different because it's a short legislative session, and the scheduling will be different. And we will also be probably approving larger projects for the 2027 session, which is amazing to think about, to be honest. That way we could also kind of schedule out budget conversations and program committee conversations, and make sure that you guys get the information you need with enough, we'd prepare, like, here's a draft budget, think about it, come back and vote on it 3 months later, and we'd have that kind of schedule. So just kind of formalizing things a little bit. And that's kind of the idea going forward. If anyone has any feedback on that, and I also fully acknowledge that this might mean that there might be a meeting during session in like April of this year. So that might be a little bit more complicated for some folks. But I just think that having a little bit more of a formal schedule might be helpful for the commission to make sure that we're meeting our statutory requirements and getting you guys the stuff that you need in a timely manner.
So you don't have to take notes on that. We'll send you an email summarizing everything. But we just wanted to raise the idea because I think, at least for me, predictability in my schedule is super important. And I welcome the ability to schedule things 2 years out. So, okay. Any thoughts or right off the bat or discussion on that? Great. Oh, yes, Dean Robbins.
I would just say that's ambitious and it's great. I don't know that we ever had 4 meetings a year. So if you can get to that point, well,
We'll do our best. And be happy with 3 if we manage that. So, okay. Is there anything else that folks want to discuss as long as we have your attention? Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to give you 20 minutes of your life back. And really, really appreciate everyone taking the time to attend this meeting, and great participation during the meeting. You'll, as always, see minutes from us, and a scheduling poll will come out about the December meeting. And then you'll see for that meeting, the meeting materials will include all of the things that we need to approve. So you should have some time to look at them and ask questions. But anyhow, thank you so much. I hope you have a really wonderful weekend, and I look forward to speaking with you in December. And welcome again, Kristen. Thank you for agreeing to take us on.
Thank
Quick
you.
question,
Bye, everybody.
GCR student 3, I'm not sure who you are. Can I, for the minutes?
Yeah, my name's Ethan Smith. I was just taking notes for Jenna Adams-Calic.
Thank you so much. I thought it was you, but just want to double check.
No worries.
Great. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Valerie. Good meeting.
Thanks, John. I appreciate you taking the time, especially since you're traveling.
Well, that's okay. So I'm looking forward to our reception.
Absolutely. Thank
Get
you.
it on that, All right. See you later.